And I was like sobbing. I was like, you have to send me to rehab. They're like, well, no, you can we can help you here. I'm like, no, you have to send me. I was like, I realized I want to stop, but I'm physically addicted to this stuff. I need to stop, and I can't on my own. I'm like, I need you to help me. I need you to send me to this place, please. It's all I want.
The following video does not glorify drug use, but instead it intends to educate people and create awareness leading to harm reduction by discouraging the abuse of drugs, and maybe even harm elimination by discouraging drug use altogether. This video shows some of the effects psychedelic substances can have on the mind while also highlighting what causes those specific effects or outcomes. However, with that being said, these are random people. Please don't make decisions based on what they say without your own due diligence, and also take note that these substances affect everyone differently, especially those with pre-existing mental conditions.
Have psychedelics ever impacted your relationship with any past or current addictions in any way?
Absolutely. Just a quick backstory before I jump into this one. When I was younger, the first time I did LSD, I candy flipped with it. I had a great time. First time I saw real fractals and stuff, it was great. I loved it. Didn't do LSD till I was 22, 21. So I started doing LSD again when I was 21. It's legit LSD. I did it for maybe 6 times, then or 6 or 7 times. No, probably more 10 times actually. And then I did that fake acid 25C MDMA, which is a whole nother story. The scariest night of my life, but not because of how much I was tripping. And then after that, I had a trip where I was just I'd been doing so much kratom, so much Xanax. I'd been on Suboxone from previous addiction to opiates. And I was just burnt out. I was drinking with a friend out at a bar. I had 9 or 10 shots in me. It was 2 a.m. Guy walks up. He's like, I got 3 hits of acid. I was like, yeah, fuck it. He said, I have liquid LSD. And I said, I have $24. He was like, it's $8 a hit. I'm like, all right, give me 3 hits then. And then I just fucking took the 3 hits. And then I get in the car, and my friend, I hadn't done ecstasy in 3 years, or at least 2 years. My friend just said, open your mouth. When I was in the car, he put fucking pill of ecstasy in my mouth. I was like, oh shit. And then the other guy drove us back to my house that we were renting. So it was just the 3 of us. My friend and I both took the same amount we'd been drinking, and then the other guy we were with had just took 2 hits of LSD and no MDMA. So he kind of watched us to make sure we were all right the whole night. But basically, I get home, and I'll get to the addiction part, but this trip is the one that changed my life, so I got to get into it real quick. So I immediately get home, and I just remember this intense euphoria, but overwhelming. Everything was so bright, it was almost blinding. Someone turned the contrast on up to overdrive, on the TV, and I heard just look at the TV. We're just walking around my house, and I got every muscle in my body flexed, and we're just making these primal noises, oh, just because it was just so much. It felt there was steam coming out of my ears from how intense the euphoria was. And then I'm just walking around my house, and I start to see these yin yang symbols appear everywhere on every surface, and they just envelop everything. Then all of a sudden it turns into this giant yin yang symbol, and I can't see anything. It overtakes my entire vision. And then the symbol makes my head explode out of the front of my head and the back of my head simultaneously. So I see frontwards and backwards of this yin yang symbols twist and spiral into these 9 planets that are opposite. So I see 9 spiraling black planets with the white space in front of me and the opposite behind me. And my mind, my consciousness was being stretched and pulled and stretched. But the second it exploded out of my head, I was gone. The next thing I remember, I'm sitting and it's bright outside, and we're chilling, we're smoking weed, and I'm seeing the most amazing visuals I've ever seen. They're 3D. They're going through portals in the house. They're connecting through portals. I see a chain of every religious symbol, the Tau symbol, the cross, the Jewish star, the Muslim, every symbol I've ever seen in my life, where chained perfectly together, flowing through these portals in 3 dimension. And I'm sitting there smoking, and I go, wait, what? Didn't we take this shit? Why is it bright out? I literally forgot what happened at the first 5 hours of my trip, 4 hours maybe. And then it I remembered everything. And I remember I was just standing outside on in my porch on my backyard, and I had no visuals. So remember at the beginning I said I had visuals overtake my entire vision. But in this state, I was just walking around and I just had this vision of white light everywhere and this feeling of intense, overwhelming love. That was like the best feeling I've ever felt. But I wasn't feeling it. It was just, it existed. And I see my friend there and we look at each other and I just say, like, it is. And he goes, it is. And we can't communicate because, like, I literally didn't exist. There was no I, there was no self, there was no anything. It was like, it was the light and the love and was everything. So I was basically trying to say the light is everything, you know, inside me, inside everything. But that's like all I could say, articulate. I saw like someone, like I saw him walking and he would like walk and he would leave trails of himself, like after images. And I would see each one and I couldn't tell which one was from the past, the present, or the future. So it looked like he was like time traveling back and forth. I felt like this intense feeling of like, I thought of up, I thought of down, like, but like I understood concepts only as opposites and together. So like love, absence of love, up and down, left to right, whatever. I could not escape this feeling of like these opposites. It was just part of the feeling. And it's just interesting because I saw the yin yang symbols at the beginning of my trip, which literally mean like opposites, right? And this is stuff like I wouldn't consciously be thinking about at the time. But when I did all this shit, this was the only time I had taken psychedelics and I just said, fuck it, just bring it on. I'm not afraid, just do whatever. Completely let go. And as I'm like walking around outside, it gets brighter and brighter and I start to kind of come back to. And I remember like I was like merged with the world around me. So I didn't realize I had a body or a head or whatever. It felt like I was like in my backyard. So when I started to come to, it felt like a piece of me from like the right corner of my backyard would like come back into my head. A piece of me that was in the sky would like come back in. I was like building back my mind with like blocks that were like part of the world around me until I came back, and then the visuals like started up again. So it was like when I was in ego death, I didn't experience any visuals. Then afterwards, they got to the intense version of like portals and religious symbols stacked together. I remember all the walls would just like, it was like almost like they were like holograms and flowing with portals and changing from every color. Just like the entire walls would be dark red, and then they turned to green and yellow, and then just kept changing. And I remember even like walking to my bedroom, and I just look at my bed and I see my bed like come sleep in me, like like my bed was talking to me even. And it was just like a crazy time. We just kept smoking weed and we like, could barely understand what each other were saying. And I totally forgot that my roommate, who I looked up to, he was actually like my leader at the job I had at the time. I forgot he was on a business trip, and I forgot he was coming home at 7 a.m. So it's 7 a.m. He walks into his house, and there's two strangers and me, like, tripping balls just on the middle of the floor. The house is trashed. I don't know how he knocked all the picture frames off the wall and shit. Like, I don't know what was happening, but we were just walking around. We couldn't see, I guess. And it just looked awful in there. And then, like, I remember I went up to him, and, like, he was older than me, too. And I couldn't articulate anything. I said like, I'm sorry, like I'm sorry, and I started like crying. And then he's like, it's fine, it's okay, whatever. I have to go to work, and he's only there for like 10 minutes, and he goes to work and leaves us there. And I just feel like this overwhelming pain. Like, what the fuck am I doing right now? Like, what am I doing with all this? And then I started crying outside, and my friends were like, ooh, whatever. And I was like, no, like, it's good. Like, I'm feeling something. Like, this is like a beautiful thing to like feel, even like pain or guilt or something. And it's a good thing. I ended up calling my mom, and I asked her if I could come stay with her that night. She lived like an hour away, and I ended up doing that. Even like 12 hours later, I was still having like these visuals, and I just wanted to be with my mom. I wanted to be different. So I go to my mom's house, and I'm with her. And she asked me what happened. I don't tell her. I was like, I just needed to be here. She's like, okay. She knew about my drug problems and stuff before. So I end up telling her a couple of days later, but I have the worst hangover ever because, again, I'd already been drunk on like 9 or 10 drinks and before I took all that shit. And the ecstasy and the LSD, I felt horrible. Worst thing I've ever had in my life. But once it cleared up, I told my mom what happened. She was like, she didn't really believe me. I just said, like, it feels like I'm different. Like, I feel different. And, like, looking at a timeline, even during the trip, like, most heavily, I see, like, a timeline of my life, like, in a linear version. But it gets to that point in my life, and it's, like, this blurry white light that covers it up. And then the timeline continues after. It literally felt like I died and was reborn, right? Like, I have no way else to describe it. It's exactly like that, like death, rebirth. I don't feel like I'm the same person that died before that. And that's why I went to my mom's. I wanted to change. I wanted to make amends. I, oddly enough, wanted to do all the stuff that they talked about in the 12-step programs without even realizing it. But LSD kind of helped me with that, which is interesting because the guy who founded Alcoholics Anonymous founded it based off of his experience with LSD. So that's interesting. I didn't that till later. But I ended up continuing to abuse stuff, and I didn't understand why, because I had this extreme want to stop. Like, I didn't want to, and I knew it, and I hated it, and I was like, what am I doing? And then I decided to, like, after a month, I took 3 hits of acid. After I'd been drinking, I walked home alone in the dark for, like, at 3 a.m. for, like, 2 hours, 3 miles. And I got back to my parents' house, and I drank a beer and stuff, and my dad was like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? And the next night, I, like, went and I told them everything. I woke them up in the middle of the night because I've been staying at their house. And this is a month after that initial trip I told you about. And I was, like, sobbing. I was like, you have to send me to rehab. They're like, well, no, we can help you here. I'm like, no, you have to send me. I was like, I realized, like, I want to stop, but I'm, like, physically addicted to this stuff. I need to stop, and I can't on my own. I'm like, I need you to help me. I need you to send me to this place, please. It's all I want. Like, begged them, and then they're like, okay. And I got sent to this place in California, which is going to help me move out to California. But in that place, like, I did everything they told me. I was on board. I just wanted to get off, but I realized, like, I couldn't do it alone. And I even wanting to make that change, even psychedelics make me want to make that change. Like, addictions, it's not something that you can usually overcome by yourself unless you ask for help, right? So that was my experience, and I met my fiance at the sober living I went to, and we were sober for a good amount of time together until we started smoking weed and doing some other stuff. But, like, my life's been totally different since then. That was when I was, like, 22, and even though I've dabbled in stuff since, done some psychedelics, quite a few, it's still, like, that's, like, the experience that defined my entire, like, adult life.
Is there anything else you want to get into as far as, like, you say your life got sent into, like, a different direction afterward, but would you like to get deeper into, like, the specifics of, like, how everything's been different for you since then?
Well, when I was younger, I couldn't hold a job. I was bored with everything. I was just like, I wanted to feel different. And so that's why I took, like, all these substances, even ones that didn't make you feel good. I just wanted to feel different. After this experience, I wanted to be better, right? Because there's something inside of me. And I remember going to this treatment center, and I told them my experience. And the counselor literally said, oh, you're full of shit. And I was like, it didn't bother me. And I ended up talking to him later, and he told me, I was there for 2 months. So after, like, 3 weeks, he came to me. He was like, I gotta apologize. I was wrong. I do understand what you're saying, because I kept telling them, I'm like, I feel this love and light. The only thing that was blocking me from this love inside myself, inside of everyone, was, like, myself. I had to, like, open myself up to help to everyone else, to be able to feel love for myself, which made me love the things I did and love the world. And that experience showed me that. So I saw the result that I aimed for, and even though it didn't, like, put me there immediately, it set me on the path to get there. Like, I understood what my goal was. I didn't want to feel these shitty ways that I've been feeling. I wanted to feel like that, like love. And I actually went to this treatment center. I had been there before. My ex-girlfriend was there when I went there. And like I thought she would be gone, but she had gone there because I had gone there. And this girl, like we fought all the time. We had huge fights. Like she would yell at me, scream at me. It was awful. But we did a lot of drugs together and stuff. But she was there, and I got there, and like all like the guys she was hanging out with there thought I got there too to go after her when they didn't realize what I'd just been through, like begging my parents to send me this place. And I knew that place. I liked the people there. I felt comfortable there. Like that's the place I wanted to go. She just happened to be there. But oddly enough, so did my cousins. My cousins had this rehab with me. So was my ex, and like the counselors are like, we don't normally do this, but we know you and we know you need help and we want to help. So my cousin and I get along really well, but everyone thinks I'm there for the wrong reasons. And I completely avoid her, and she ends up hooking up with like another guy in the place. And I end up talking to the counselor. The counselor's like, do you like go in your room and cry at night? The way like she's acting towards you? I was like, no. I just like want to be better. Like I'm like withdrawing too from poppy seed tea because that's what I was abusing the month after I took that intense trip before I went to rehab, which is like horrible withdrawal. But I was still like, I felt like physically bad, but mentally I never felt better in my life. And she's like, aren't you crying? I was like, no, I feel pretty good. And then like something happened where I found out she was like trying to get back together with me. I told her, no, I don't think it's a good idea. I need to work on myself. She hooked up with some other guy, and then it finally like hit me, and I like cried about it. But like some other girl there like just helped me get over that feeling. But that was like the only time I cried about it. And it's just like this really rough thing that should have been happening to me. But like I just saw like the deeper part of it where I just wanted to experience that love. And I knew the things that would like hurt my chances of feeling that way, like negative emotions and negative, not that like feeling sad is bad, but like I'm talking about like being angry and stuff. So I didn't want to feel angry. I didn't want to feel any of that stuff. I just wanted to feel the emotions as they were supposed to be felt by me, because I'd been running from them for like 8 years up to that point, 7 years. So after that, I got a job and I was living a sober living, and it just felt like great. I started running. I was running like 5 miles a day. I always do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups. I was like basically one punch man workout. But I just kept doing that like every day, and I like could not stop, and I just kept doing that. And my fiance at the time was just living there with me. She was a bit older, but I kind of wore down a little bit. So she finally dated me, and then we've been together ever since, living together. And I met like one of my other best friends there who helped me get a job that I never could have imagined getting, because I flunked out of like college. Like I didn't go to any of my classes. I didn't try. And I got this opportunity doing a small amount of work at this company. And over the past 5 years, I've like built my way up. And I owe that all to that first thing I did. Like, and I've been through some rough patches in the last 5 years, but nothing was as bad as it was when I was younger. I have a lot more support now. And I owe it to psychedelics. And again, using them sometimes, probably like honestly, like 2 to 5 times a year, I do LSD, mushroom, DMT. And it's just like a good reminder. Like I have some great experiences. I have a horror experience with the 25C MDMA before that life-changing experience, but everything past that one candy flip I did is just like remembering or something like awe-inspiring, but it all basically leads to the same spot. Like just remind you that love is what really matters above all else. And the more resentment you hold, the more, people you can't stand, the more you hate yourself. That's what causes you to be blocked off from that love inside yourself, which is basically the key to being happy, is what I found. So again, even today, I blocked that off from me, and I know I am, but I still know that it exists, and I'll do a psychedelic, and I'll try to go that direction. Because nothing's permanent. You have to work at it, right? If I had chosen not to act on like wanting help that first trip, I would have never changed my life. So people think psychedelics can just change your life, but no. After that trip, I learned that it's a tool. You have to have an intention. You have to be ready for it. You can't run from it. And afterwards, you have to actually want to make the change and act on it. for any real change to happen from it.
That's a amazing point to make. Intentions really do matter as far as wanting to move forward with your life and change something. You while using psychedelics to help you can't just they won't do it for you.
All right. So I remember being at rehab. The doctor told me that I had borderline personality disorder because of the test I took, but I was like honest in the test, and it was like, "Have you ever seen like something?" Like I was like, "Yes." So I like answered it but I answered it because I had just gotten off the psychedelic, and like I was answering it as if like those questions related to me being on psychedelic. So I don't know, maybe I do, but I really don't think I have borderline personality disorder. I just think I took the test in a state where I was still almost tripping, because like that trip like really resonated with me. Like I just felt like I could literally close my eyes and like see music for like a month after that trip.
That's
so
crazy.
I think that's what he was thinking like when he said that. But he was like, I want to get you on these meds, on this all this stuff. I was like, no, that's fine. He's like, you're gonna feel sad. And then like every week I'd go in and see him. He's like, so are you sad yet? I'm like, no, I feel great. I've been running. I'm like, all I need is exercise. That's all I need. He's like, are you sure? Because you're gonna crash because of all this. And I was like, no, I'm fine. The next week he's like, how are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm actually exercising more. I'm going to the beach every day. I feel great. He was like very unsupportive of the fact that I wasn't taking like psych meds and I was getting better. It was strange. Yeah, I didn't need anything. And again, no symptoms of OCD or anything. I just felt like if I had a goal, I wanted to accomplish it. And I did it. I went out, like we went to Disneyland like every couple of weeks. I went to Six Flags like every week. Like right after I got off work, we just go to Six Flags. We just go do whatever we wanted to have fun, and we did that for the longest time. Or ADHD and OCD. And the OCD is like obvious. Even when I was like a baby, I would yell at my mom like to like move something over somewhere else because I didn't like it sitting exactly in one spot. It had to be in another spot. She always tells me that story. So like I like wash my hands a lot, just like weird things. But the interesting thing is, after that LSD trip, I didn't have any OCD or ADHD like feelings or anything for like 6 months.
I really appreciate Matt's reflection towards the end. He had a lot of great points. But I still want to go over some things because I feel like they will be relevant in future videos. So the following is just my opinion. Matt developed a strong desire to quit during his experience, and for some addicts who have these experiences with LSD, DMT, or mushrooms, the most decisive variable can be the strength of their desire to quit. So of course, naturally, it helps to have a strong desire to quit before going into the experience. But some people don't even develop a desire to quit until after they dose, if at all. For the people who do develop a desire to quit after dosing, I believe this happens because psychedelics like LSD, DMT, and mushrooms almost act like a reset button and disrupt all of your habits. And I mean all of your habits, including your deep subconscious thoughts. Thoughts you've heard or seen so many times that your mind has filtered them out, so it can consciously process other information more efficiently. These thoughts go into the dark, away from the light. Some of these thoughts, and a lot of people, keep them glued to their habits, like addictions. And just like other habits, often the longer the addiction has existed, the harder it is to quit. And addictions usually root themselves deeper and deeper within the person over time. And many micro habits form and build off of each other to keep the addiction going strong. And they deflect any desires to reach for something greater, or any aversions that are the result of the addiction. This can cause the individual to go almost numb to any routine feelings that might motivate them to quit. Now, when someone takes a psychedelic like LSD, as Matt did, depending on the size of the dose, these habits and mental filters are disrupted. And for the first time in a while, they come out of the dark and back into the light. This person becomes conscious of all of their own thoughts again, all of their desires and aversions, including the ones related to their addiction. And they get confronted with the feelings that come with them. But this time, their mind can't resort to a typical deflection, or at least they struggle to, with the same urgency, especially depending on how much was taken. One more effective psychedelics like LSD that I believe helps aid people with quitting their addictions is the magnification of emotions that people often experience. And I believe something similar happened to Matt. After making some bad choices, Matt was confronted with how his actions affected his roommate, who he had looked up to, and he didn't want that anymore. He resisted it.
he had developed a deep aversion to it, and he embraced this aversion and the beautiful feeling that came with it. And this beautiful feeling was magnified, and so it served as a strong motivation that lit his firm desire to quit. In Matt's previous trip report on my channel, he briefly mentioned a mushroom trip that took place sometime before the events of this trip report. And that made him want to quit doing drugs as well. But once the experience was over, he had gone right back to it. Either way, this desire was resonating within him for a while. And sometimes for some people, it takes a specific turn of events at a specific time in their life, and maybe even a specific dose of a psychedelic to truly grow that desire and manifest this kind of outcome. Matt wasn't able to quit until he finally acted on his intentions and begged his parents to bring him to rehab. Yeah, this is a more unique case when compared to other people's stories of quitting addictions with psychedelics, but it still highlights the importance of not only having the desire to quit, but the fuel for the motivation. Psychedelics aren't magic. They won't do anything for you. You have to do it yourself. You can want to quit more than anything, but unless you truly intend to quit and also act on those intentions, nothing will happen. And just to be clear, many people have successfully quit their addictions without ever touching psychedelics. But I do think that this is a very viable option for some people. And let me know if you agree with anything I said or if you disagree with anything I said. And if you do, let me know why.